Names are emerging to replace Ryan Grubb as the Seahawks offensive coordinator. 3 have been reported today. Tom Pelissero says Hank Fraley, the Detroit Lions offensive line coach, is going to interview on Friday. Albert Breer added to that report saying that he's trying to find a passing game coordinator to work with him. I'm happy with that kind of an arrangement. It's a bit like Darrell Bevel and Tom Cable. You can have your opinion on that, whatever you want. But what this would mean is Hank Fraley's not got play calling experience. Maybe you put someone alongside him who has. And putting an offensive line coach in charge of your offense would be the single biggest statement the Seahawks can make right now before free agency in the draft, that they plan to fix the offensive line, that they intend to prioritize it. A lot of fans want that. A lot of fans are skeptical they're going to do that. If you appoint Hank Fraley as your offensive coordinator, that is a big statement from the Seahawks. The second name that has been talked about was reported as well by Tom Pelissero, Thomas Brown, the Bears interim head coach. To come in and potentially be the offensive coordinator. This is someone who not that long ago was very highly rated in the NFL. He'd got his first NFL gig under Sean McVay as the running backs coach. Sean McVay didn't want to lose him after 1 year, so made him an assistant head coach and look after the tight ends as well as the running backs. And then when Carolina appointed him, as they were appointing their superstar staff under Frank Reich, he was seen as a huge addition to that staff. Obviously, the Carolina Panthers are a joke. They had that meltdown. Frank Reich lasted 5 minutes. Thomas Brown, therefore, didn't last long as well. He needed to find a new job. To his misfortune, that new job was with the Bears. That's ended up being a shambles. He replaced Shane Waldron as the play caller. Then he replaced Matt Eberflus as the head coach. His career was on a massive upward trajectory. And then he's had 2 setbacks with the Panthers and the Bears. I don't think that makes him a bad coach. You know, he's from the McVay tree. There's a lot of coaches that have had success coming from the McVay tree. I think sometimes we've got to get it out of our heads that candidates who are working in environments that are not conducive with massive success are going to be a problem. Like sometimes it's the diamonds in the rough that you need to go and look for. Nobody had heard of Ben Johnson when he was helping Adam Gase create the 31st ranked offense with the Miami Dolphins in 2018. That was his last job before he moved to Detroit. He worked for Matt Patricia for a year as well. So no one was saying, look at Ben Johnson. He's the next big thing. Now he's the most innovative, dynamic, highest rated offensive coordinator in the NFL. Andy Reid wasn't that, obvious candidate back in the day. There's all sorts of coaches who you kind of hear the name and you go, really? And they end up being really good. So I wouldn't count out some of these people that you look at them. Oh, Thomas Brown for the Bears. I'm not interested in that. Maybe he is really good and he just needs an opportunity in a better franchise like the Seahawks compared to the Bears and the Panthers to be able to show what he can do. For what it's worth, Mike Garafolo on with Puck Sports today. Go and check that out. Go and check out Puck's interview with him because he gets into a lot of detail with these coordinators. He said that his money would not be on Thomas Brown getting the coordinator job in Seattle. And then Jeremy Fowler put out a note saying that the Seahawks have requested an interview with the Saints offensive coordinator Klint Kubiak. So Kubiak is obviously somebody who was very highly rated at the start of the 2024 season when things were going well for the Saints. It spiraled very quickly. They had a lot of injuries. The head coach ended up getting fired. Kubiak was very highly rated with Kyle Shanahan when he was in San Francisco as well. The Saints were seen to have pulled off a bit of a coup when they got him to be the offensive coordinator a year ago. I think he's a very interesting individual. He's called plays. There's not many of those candidates around who have had a year of play calling experience in the NFL. Obviously, got good bloodlines. His dad won a Super Bowl as a head coach. He's kind of grown up within the game. The only issue here is I would expect that Aaron Glenn's going to get the New Orleans job, and the Saints are going to do everything they can to keep Klint Kubiak in New Orleans to be the coordinator for Aaron Glenn, where he will get to run the offense. And if he has enjoyed himself in New Orleans, if he likes the personnel there, maybe even better than he does in Seattle currently, he might not want to change jobs. He might not even want to live in Seattle. He might prefer living in New Orleans. So there's going to be competition. In Fowler's report, it also said that Cleveland was an option for him. I think he's worked with Kevin Stefanski before. And, Kevin Stefanski, I think I'm right in saying, didn't call plays last season. I think Ken Dorsey did it. It was open to whether Kevin Stefanski would take those duties back. But if they go and get Klint Kubiak, maybe he doesn't. Maybe he just lets Kubiak do that. So that might be a better, more attractive job for Klint Kubiak than Seattle. But I think another interesting name. So there are 3 candidates that are out there. I don't have a problem with any of them. I think it speaks to the fact that the Seahawks are going to have to open up a broad search. If anyone was hoping that they had a guy lined up that they were going to immediately go to having gone through the Rooney Rule and everything that you need to do with coordinators, you have to speak to 2 minority candidates. If anyone was hoping they were going to do that and then go to the guy that they've always identified, it's becoming increasingly clear that's not the case, that they're going to speak to a number of different people, and then they're going to try and find the person who fits with Mike Macdonald. The problem is when you are looking for if you're an offensive-minded head coach looking for a defensive coordinator, last year you could have appointed Vic Fangio, or you could have appointed Brian Flores. This year you could go and get Lou Anarumo from the Bengals, did a good job for a number of years. You could go and get Dennis Allen, who's a very good defensive coordinator, who's not much of a head coach. You could go and get Robert Saleh. You can go get Jeff Ulbrich from the New York Jets, who's not going to stay on there, you'd imagine. There are all sorts of candidates you could get. You could go, oh, that's a really smart defensive coordinator appointment. And there just aren't the offensive options out there. The best play callers, the best defensive minds are going to get opportunity after opportunity to get this right. Mike McDaniel didn't get fired with the Dolphins, for example. Brian Daboll didn't get fired with the Giants. So some of these people that you kind of think, well, maybe they'll be available, were not available. And you look at who are the experienced play callers available to Seattle now to come in and run the job and have a degree of expertise there. It's people like Doug Peterson. It's people like Chip Kelly. And I'm not sure whether Peterson wants to go from, hey, Super Bowl winning head coach, then getting head coaching job at Jaguars to go on and working for a head coach in Seattle who's in his late 30s. He may want to just enjoy his wealth at this point, look back on his coaching career with fond memories and go and do something else with his life. Chip Kelly may well just want to stay with Ohio State. I personally, having watched pretty much I think I watched every Ohio State game during the regular season. He's not someone I would pine for. They're doing very well in the playoffs with their offense. I don't think they did enough. I thought they were a bit underwhelming on offense during the season. That's not someone I would definitely pine for. But if you're not going to go for somebody like that, the chances are that unless you can go and get Klint Kubiak, you're going to be appointing someone who's never called plays before, or is going to need somebody to work with him, like the offensive line coach in Detroit, to help them get them through this. So there's no ideal situation right now. I think they are going to have to speak to a lot of people. An important thing to remember here, they can request an interview with Kubiak because the Saints season is over. They can request an interview with Thomas Brown because the Bears season is over. They can request an interview with Hank Fraley because the Detroit Lions have got a bye week and their staff get this week to go and speak to teams about jobs. And then they're not allowed to speak to anybody until their team's eliminated again from the playoffs after that. So there's a long wait for that. And such is the case for the teams who are playing this weekend. So if you wanted to speak to Josh McCown, for example, with the Minnesota Vikings, you can put the request in when they're eliminated, but you can't put that request in now. And if you remember what the Seahawks did a year ago, they didn't put a request in to interview Mike Macdonald or Ben Johnson until after the NFC and the AFC championship games. And when they were asked why they hadn't just got the requests in before that, they said it was out of respect for the fact that they were continuing to play deep into the playoffs and they didn't want to distract them in any way. And I think that was the classy thing to do. I think probably they both appreciated that. Macdonald clearly took the Seahawks job in the end. So I think if they are going to put a slip in for Josh McCown or another person who's maybe competing for the Ravens, T. Martin's name has been mentioned by a few people. If they're going to go and try and get a coach from any of these teams that are playing this weekend, then they're probably going to wait till they're eliminated. Obviously, half the teams who are playing this weekend are not going to be continuing the playoffs, so there'll be options there to go and speak to different people. So, I think there'll be more names to come that are going to emerge next week. I think these are just the people that the Seahawks can speak to right now at this moment. And I think it is going to be a thorough search. I think it's going to be no stone unturned type of thing, lots of different people spoken to try and find the person who can work with Mike Macdonald in a way that he clearly wasn't able to mesh and connect with Ryan Grubb. And look, again, to sort of refer to what Mike Garafolo said in his conversation with Puck Sports, it sounds like very early in this process, the relationship with Macdonald and Grubb wasn't there. That it wasn't very good. That either philosophically they weren't aligned, or they just weren't the kind of people that were going to be able to work together. So it's really important the Seahawks get this right now. They can't be looking for a new offensive coordinator every year. The problem is with a lot of defensive-minded head coaches, this tends to be an issue, trying to find that great offensive coordinator to work alongside you. And when you generally find them, they go and get promotions and become head coaches very, very quickly. So then you have to replace them again. And this just constant churn of cycle goes on and on and on. So hopefully they can nail this one. Hopefully they can go and get somebody who is not just going to either get poached or fail within a year. But it's interesting that we've got 3 names to talk about. So let me know what you think about these 3 names that have been connected to the Seahawks. Have you got a preferred candidate at this point? Is somebody out there that you'd love to see them go after who's not being talked about? Let me know in the comment section. Be sure to take out SeahawksDraftBlog.com for further analysis. We're going to be across all of this stuff with the offensive coordinator search, everything across the draft going up to the Senior Bowl, which is the first big event that's coming up on the horizon later this month. So stick with Seahawks Draft Blog for that. Make sure you do like the video. Make sure you subscribe. Until next time, bye for now.